Hello
Hello there.
there. Welcome back to Star Wars in a Galaxy. Today we have episode number 48. We are continuing our chronological watch through of Star Wars The Clone Wars. We have Evil Plans, Hostage Crisis, and the Hunt for Zero for you all today. I'm Jacob.
I'm Eli. Yes, and welcome back to Star Wars in a Galaxy, watching all the Star Wars we can get our hands on. Yeah, should we just get into this?
Yeah, let's do it.
Uh,
Let's look at Evil Plans.
yeah,
Very
so
interesting episode. In Evil Plans, we open on a very silly sight. It is C-3PO micromanaging the preparations for a Padme's senatorial banquet. Now, it turns out that a chef droid has somehow forgotten to buy a rare Yogan fruit, which is needed for the topping of a special cake, which Padme wants to serve to really butter up a certain senator who I guess whose vote is crucial to introducing a new bill that Padme really wants to get
that
passed.
is
So,
Senator
typical
Aang,
politics stuff. Yes, Senator Aang. Yes,
who
that
is
is
a
correct.
Runin.
Yes, a Runin. Yes. So, um, this is a bit more of a R2 C3PO adventure episode with a twist, as we'll see. They get sent by Anakin to the market. They buy the Yogan fruits. However, Cad Bane is watching them, and Toto 360, who has been resurrected back from the dead, um, entices R2D2 to go to a droid spa. Once they get lured to the spa, C3PO gets kidnapped by Cad Bane and Cad Bane's assassin droid. However, R2D2 manages to somehow make it into the spa. So we have then two parallel opposites where R2D2 is being treated, he's getting the royal treatment in the spa. Meanwhile, C3PO is being tortured by Cad Bane. Eventually, R2D2 also gets captured by Cad Bane, and they are both tortured, and information is extracted, Senate diagrams, things like that, nefarious purposes. However, Cad Bane then wipes their memory, and both the droids make it back to the banquet just in time to deliver the Yogan fruit to the chef droid before the cake is supposed to be served. Like I
Yeah,
said, it's an interesting
it's
episode.
quite an interesting episode. I love how you pointed out the contrast of R2 being pampered and C3PO being tortured, because it wasn't something that I picked up originally. Good catch there. Let's just get into this fortune cookie. What do you say? Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
This seems like
So
one of those thing. This fortune cookie seems like one of those things you'd see on one of those like journals that you'd buy.
yeah, yeah, this is yeah. A failure in planning is a plan for failure. Now, I do think that this definitely rings true. Like this is definitely a very true statement,
It's
but
an
I'm not
Uno
exactly
reverse card.
sure.
It's an
Yeah,
Uno
it's an
reverse
Uno
card
reverse card.
fortune cookie, as I call it.
Yeah, I will say I don't exactly know quite how to apply it to this because I mean neither the good guys nor the bad guys in this episode seem to learn a lesson. Cad Bane still ends up going to Jabba's palace. He gets a not quite a pot of gold, but he gets a briefcase filled with gold, so he's happy. And R2 and C3PO and Padme and Anakin are none the wiser that they just had secret information stolen right out from under their noses. But maybe therein lies the message, which is that somehow just at some stage a droid forgetting to buy a Yogan fruit, which is a seemingly insignificant failure in planning, has then set in motion this other plan, which ends up in a massive intelligence coup for enemies of the Republic, where they now have full detailed blueprints of the entire high security Senate building.
See, I would wager this fortune cookie was from for Jabba and Cad Bane, because
Oh,
they
really?
go in with this clever plan. It's not about learning a lesson. It's about like it's a. I mean, I don't think it's a conscious thing for Dave to say, "Oh, we're gonna," and the people working on the Clone Wars say, "Oh, we're gonna have the villains show a lesson on screen." But that's what happens here. They make a very good plan, and it goes flawlessly. I mean, it goes off without a hitch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Often, I don't think it's the best fortune cookie, and I think this episode is good despite the fortune cookie. Um, yeah, actually, none of these fortune cookies, in my opinion, are very good.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to
But
just
yeah,
get on to the episode then?
let's get on to this episode.
Now, right off the bat, I thought a funny thing here was that this is one of those episodes where the announcer in the little narrator reel at the beginning actually says the name of the episode.
I wasn't gonna mention
So,
that. I had that in my notes. I'm like, oh my god,
oh my
I'm
god.
gonna skip that. That doesn't matter. We are mind linked right now. We are
Yes,
part of
we
a
are
dyad.
definite. We are a forced dyad. Wow, we are really on the same page. Yeah. I
I kind of hate
I don't
that,
know.
honestly.
I'm not sure what the thought process was. Like, did it just fit and so they wanted to use it, or did they go out of their way? Because I think that would have been a little
Evil
corny if they.
plans.
Because he was like, evil plan, the narrator, evil plans. And then I just thought to myself, yes, yeah, thank you for reminding me which episode I'm watching.
I
I
kind of
mean, I
rolled my
guess,
eyes. I kind of rolled
look,
my eyes.
I
I'm like,
mean,
really?
I guess I clicked on the episode, but I guess if you're doing a Clone Wars marathon, maybe you're on your second, your third, your fourth episode,
And to
you're
be
using
fair, if you're watching
autoplay.
this when it's
Maybe you
like
won't
first
remember.
televised, you're not gonna
Yeah,
know the name of the episode.
but then why wouldn't they use that for the rest of the episodes? It seems it's a little weird, but
I don't like it myself,
I don't know.
but yeah, it's a I
I had
rolled
a
my
good
eyes.
chuckle.
I rolled my eyes.
I had a good chuckle. I
Yeah.
thought it was pretty funny. I'm kind of at a loss of where to kind of find an entry point into this episode for the discussion because it is such a strange episode. I
These
feel
three
like
episodes in general are so weird.
yeah,
Like
they're so weird.
they're not
I
my
totally agree.
favorite episodes of the Clone Wars, but I really admire all three of them for really swinging for the fences. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
I
And I
I
mean,
love when Star Wars is weird. I love when Star Wars is different.
oh, this gets weird.
This gets really weird. I mean, that final episode, Hunt for Zero, is like really weird. But I love it. It's what makes Star Wars interesting. Are these really strange storylines that you're like, who came up with this?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, this is definitely one of those. I think, right off the bat, we see C-3PO engaging in some very micromanagey party planning. So I don't know. I
Though that's
found
his
that
job,
I
you know
found
what
that
I
pretty
mean?
funny.
That's his
Yeah, he's a
job.
protocol droid. I
Um,
guess you could see that. Yeah, that's his job. You could say that. There is a torture scene, multiple torture scenes in this, in an episode that really, really I thought was gonna. I like the first time I watched it, I was like, oh man, this is totally just gonna be a silly romp. No, no, it is not. No, they
it's
get captured by Cad Bane and they get tortured. Also,
it,
a side note, how can you torture a droid? Why are droids programmed to feel pain? So many
of
questions.
course you pick up on that.
Yeah, so many
But
questions.
one of my things is this episode a lot reminds me of the beginning of Return of the Jedi. What
Oh,
do
how
we see at
so?
the beginning of Return of the Jedi? The first thing we see is the Death Star, the second Death Star. Palpatine and not Palpatine. It's Vader, but I kind of lump Palpatine in there. And soon the rebellion will be crushed, and young Skywalker will be the one of us. And
Yeah.
then what's the first thing we see on the hero side? It's R2 and 3PO just walking on Tatooine. I am afraid, and I don't know why you aren't R2. Lando Calrissian and poor Chewbacca
Yeah.
never got back from that awful place. It's this contrast of the super dark and serious with this super whimsical and, like you said, silly. And I really actually like that. I mean, for one episode, I think it's fine. And I think this episode is made all the more better by knowing where it goes. I think Evil Plans is only as good as it is because, in my opinion, because of Hostage Crisis and Hunt for Zero.
Yeah, I would agree. I think on its own, this episode, I honestly don't think it has a lot going on. I'm gonna be honest here, but yeah, it definitely ties into larger picture in an interesting way, considering how this episode has kind of a it has a happy feeling and ending, and the episode definitely comes off as if it's trying to give that happy ending kind of, and yet in the larger picture, this sets into motion something quite sinister.
Yeah, it's interesting. I really like. Again, this arc, I think, as a storyline, works really well. I would also like to point out, let's talk about Seth Green in this episode because he absolutely kills it. I think he gives the best performance in this episode, as Toto 360. Um, I love every time Seth Green shows up as Toto 360. I adore it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I really love
it's
because first he does the whole faux salesman thing, where he pitches the droid spot at R2. No, the assembly to C3PO, the assembly line you used to be.
yeah, that was
and then he does the thing where he uses psychological warfare against R2, which first of all, I didn't know droids were capable of delivering psychological warfare. Second of all, I didn't know droids were capable of being impacted by psychological warfare, but I'll leave that to you. But like, I don't know what that little droid's gonna think when he finds out that that his friend has been scrapped to bits. It's
yeah.
yeah.
There's a lot. It gets really heavy.
Here's an interesting lore question I have for you that I couldn't stop thinking about in this episode.
Yeah,
The place where Cad Bane is torturing C3PO and R2D2. Where is that?
I guess it's just a hideout on Coruscant somewhere. I mean,
Because
they
I
do have
think it's in
some.
the works.
Yeah, the works is just you need to put something on Coruscant. It needs to be shady. It's the works.
Yeah.
It is the works.
In case people do not know, the works is the technical term for the area of Coruscant that housed a building in which Palpatine and Dooku met at the end of Attack of the Clones.
It's basically a bunch of abandoned factories, and the Clone Wars loves to use it as a place for shady business to go down.
Yeah. I don't know if it's the works, but my headcanon is that it's in the works.
Yeah, that would make some sense to me because, I mean, if two Sith lords can meet up there and fly under the radar, I have I have no doubt that that Cat Bane could fly under the radar as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Do you have anything to say about the droid spa experience?
Nothing other than, Star Wars has often been described as contrasted with other science fiction universes, and I know depending on your definition of Star Wars, it might not be a science fiction, it might be a fantasy or whatever. The idea of Star Wars being a lived-in universe that, comparing with something like, and I have a very, very low knowledge of this franchise, but comparing it with something like Star Trek, where
Yeah,
Star Trek is very clean, it's very, pristine, it's very polished, and Star Wars is definitely not. It's, how many times do we see the Falcon or the Razor Crest or the Ghost get just absolutely torn apart? But it's interesting to see a clean aspect of a lived-in universe. You know what I mean?
yes, because I feel like
It's
yeah,
a
it's such a
weird.
good point. So much of what made Star Wars kind of the way it is yeah, how lived in and how run down a lot of the original trilogy felt.
And
And
even
I
like the
think that's
prequels and the sequels.
yeah, I think the
Yeah.
prequels definitely, yeah, you could criticize it saying it felt a little too pristine at times.
But then
I
again,
kind of
that's just
realized that it's
showing us the
supposed to
different
be.
parts of the universe.
Yeah. But yeah, I definitely think that that has really contributed to the identity of Star Wars and what we know as kind of the Star Wars feel and the Star Wars
Yeah.
aesthetic.
I want to talk about C3PO in this episode because I find some things funny about him in this episode. So I love that C3PO accidentally reveals to them that R2 would be the one to have the plans and the blueprints.
That is just
Um,
the most C3PO thing ever, in my
it is, and
opinion.
there's
It
that
is the most
line
C3PO
from
thing ever.
Rise of Skywalker when Poe says to C3PO, "The one time we want you to talk, you can't."
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
gave extra weight to that moment.
Yeah, I think that is a perfect encapsulation
I
of
mean,
what is happening here.
C-3PO talking like has held the Senate hostage for like 3 hours, and yet the one time they have a dagger, he just can't. That they need translated, he just can't do it.
Yeah, I know.
The Empire has been brought down by C-3PO talking.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Um
I mean,
you could say that.
if he could not communicate with those Ewoks, that would have been a lot harder.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So then eventually, they catch up to R2D2. Somehow they completely missed R2 the first time, and R2, I'm not sure if this is one of his kind of vindictive moments,
It
because
definitely feels like it.
R2 can be a little sassy sometimes,
R2 is just
especially with
like
C3PO.
R2 is
So
just a
this,
legend, honestly.
yeah. So I think maybe R2, when CPO when 3PO is screaming, "Oh, R2, come back," or so, like whatever it was, he just assumed, oh, he doesn't need help. He's just trying to, I don't know. He's just trying to get me not to go to the droid spot. But somehow he makes it into the droid spot without realizing
Though
that
then again,
his
it's like
friend has
the
just,
droid's fault for me was like, were they intending to capture both droids, or were they just intending to capture 3PO because they thought that 3PO would have the data? Because that's how I chose to interpret that's how I
oh,
interpreted the episode. Is that they didn't capture R2 because they didn't think R2 was going to be useful to them.
that's a possibility. I mean, I would have to go back to really figure that one out. But I do. I mean, Cad Bane. I think it's unclear if Cad Bane. Now, I will say that I think Cad Bane didn't necessarily know that there were going to be two droids, because he
Yeah.
said, when C3PO accidentally reveals R2, he says, R2, there's another droid, like, or I don't know what he says exactly, but he says the
Yeah.
astromech. So yeah, it's
And
unclear.
I would also like to ask you another question, just generally about this whole heist thing. How did Bane know where they would be? Like Coruscant's a really big planet.
Well, because Toto, remember Toto 360, he was the one who Toto 360 was the one who invited them to the droid spawn, kind of
No, I
got
no.
them in there.
Before that,
Before that,
they just walk into Coruscant, and
yeah, that's a
Bane and
good
Toto
point.
360 just happen to see them there. This can be fixed really easily, really easily.
Yeah, I mean, they must have been
Just
tracking them or
shoot a
something. I don't know.
scene. Just shoot a scene where Bane just flies by Padme's apartment discreetly and just plants a tracker right
Yeah,
there. That's all you
Eli,
need to do. Not a listening
Eli.
a listening device. That's all you got to do. Yeah.
I know this is one of your favorite things to say, so this may come as a Uno reverse card moment for you. Star Wars is about the why, not the how.
Yeah, I know.
This is
I know.
definitely, yeah, this
That
is definitely one of those moments.
Here's the thing. I understand that Star Wars is about the why, not the how, and I love delving into the why. Star Wars in a Galaxy is sometimes a show about pointing out the hows.
Yeah, that is true. That is something that we like to do. I agree.
So Bane brings the plans to Jabba the Hutt, and then he meets with the heads of the five Hutt families.
Man, Cad Bane
Jacob,
is
I know you
so
know
cool
you
right
know I'm
here.
all about this, but like about these weird like spin-off ideas, but like how is a Game of Thrones style show, like not like the tone, but like the style of that like the political intrigue with the different clans and all that stuff, with the five Hutt families not currently in development right now? I mean, that just sounds incredible.
I absolutely love this scene. Cad
Yeah.
Bane. I think you could really make a case for him being maybe possibly the coolest bounty hunter, just because how I mean, he is in his prime in the Clone Wars. He is
Yeah.
confounding Jedi left and right,
we
and
we have our we have our famous declaration, which I forgot was in this episode. The Hutt's like, who's gonna do this thing for us? And Bane steps forward. That would be me, Cad Bane, at your service. I'll take on any job for the right price.
oh yeah, that's such
Like,
a great moment. I
it's
love that.
that iconic line. I
Absolutely
hate
love
Cad
that.
Bane. I don't like his character, but that is a really cool moment. I really like the moment that is the moment that I think of when I think of Cad Bane, because it just establishes him as this gunslinger-esque bounty hunter who is like, I know he does a lot of evil stuff in the Clone Wars, but like that guy's the definition of true neutral in our the alignment charts.
So I do think that the last scene with the Hutt Council made this episode a lot better,
Yeah,
maybe
absolutely. I
a
think
bit more.
it's a great ending to the episode.
Yeah, he really kicked it. I feel like he really kicked it up a notch in an episode that felt not necessarily too geared towards children.
It felt sort of baseline.
Yeah, it just felt kind of, I don't know. I'm not sure quite the word I'm looking for. It felt like it needed something. It needed that extra something.
It seemed too simple of a premise for me, at least.
Yeah.
It seemed too simple of a premise. It needed something to kick it up a notch, and that kicked it up a notch.
Yeah, absolutely. I have some trivia. I do have
Oh
some trivia,
yeah,
some
let's go.
important things. One very important point that kind of confused me as I was watching this. This episode takes place after Holocron Heist, the episode when Toto 360 was destroyed, but it was actually Anakin Skywalker who rebuilt Toto 360 because he wanted to try and access his memory banks to find information on Cad Bane. Obviously, this didn't work because now, of course, Toto 360 somehow ended up back with Cad Bane.
Where was that story of Anakin rebuilding Toto?
I have no idea. I found it in the trivia gallery, but I'm sure it's a very
Good
interesting
stuff.
one.
Okay.
Also, the Baker droid in this episode is voiced by Duff Goldman of the Food Network show Ace of Cakes. And
That's pretty cool.
I mean, yeah, that's pretty fitting. Not much to say there. It's quite a cake that he put together.
In what is undoubtedly, in my opinion, one of the 20 best episodes of Star Wars: The Clone Wars, in order to arrange the release of Ziro the Hutt, Cad Bane takes a plethora of bounty hunters, including Aura Singh, including is C-21 a high singer in this? I think it's C-21 a high singer.
Something like that.
Robanino, Shahana Lama, a bunch of bounty hunters, and he holds the Senate hostage. All the senators in there, and Chancellor Palpatine in his office, along with Ryloth Senator Orn Free-Ta, are held hostage in the Senate. Anakin and Padme are having a little romantic escapade when this happens. So, and in a measure of trust, Anakin gives Padme his lightsaber. So the entire episode is basically Anakin running around, trying to help the senators without his lightsaber, which Padme has, and Padme trying to conceal to the bounty hunters that she has the lightsaber. The episode ends with Palpatine arranging the release of Ziro the Hutt and Cad Bane taking off with Ziro the Hutt, and Anakin narrowly rescuing the senators from a ticking time bomb that Bane set up in the Senate. And yeah, that's Hostage Crisis. Off the bat, I gotta say, I don't know why, but for a long time it was a long time, from when I watched Hostage Crisis to when I watched Hunt for Ziro, and I loved the cliffhanger that it left this episode on. I really, because you didn't know what was happening. You didn't know where Cad Bane was taking Ziro. You didn't know why they wanted Ziro. It's a great ending to the episode, in my opinion.
So the fortune cookie here: a secret shared is a trust formed. I mean, I don't have a lot of thoughts about this one, to be honest.
Yeah,
but
it's not a great fortune cookie. It's a really incredible episode. But I'm not a huge fan of the fortune cookie.
Yeah, I mean, I can only think of the quite obvious example of Anakin and Padme. You know,
that's pretty much it. Honestly,
you could say that they're living I mean, obviously they've got a secret marriage at this point, so they definitely have a lot of trust there to be able to
and yet part of
to
this
be able to
episode
pull
is
that off and feel comfortable doing that.
them learning to trust each other more. Part of this episode is them learning to trust each other more. Because there's that very cheesy prequel-esque scene that reminds me of the prequels in the dialogue. Isn't our love more important to you? Anakin, the work I do, the work we both do, is important. And it's Anakin and Padme both trying to figure out where their love for each other fits into their equation.
Yeah.
Now the Jedi have determined that that such love should not be in the equation, but Anakin and Padme are trying to sneak it in somewhere.
I mean, to be honest, I thought that Anakin was going full creepy manipulative Attack of the Clones Anakin on Padme here. Just the way
He
he
does
was
do that
saying
from time to time.
everything.
He does do that
It
from
was
time to
pretty
time.
aggressive. I was like, "Whoa, Buster, what are you doing here, bud?" Like, I don't know. It kind of reminded me of the Robot Chicken sketch. Can I get a different Jedi? This one keeps
One
giving me
keeps
"I
giving me, I
want you
want you
eyes."
eyes.
Yeah, no, I'm not. It
No,
was
I
kind of remind like
wasn't.
yeah, the whole thing was just kind of weird. He was like, "Oh, let's go get away. Let's go."
We'll be gone even before we'll be back before they even notice we're gone.
2 weeks. She's a senator. I really doubt that. I mean, there are a lot of senators in Star Wars,
But
she's
also
an important
Padme's.
one.
But Padme's is the one that seems to be assigned to everything.
Yeah.
So I really doubt that they just missed them.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is what it is. But I mean, the exchange, it kind of mystified me. It was, I think it was supposed, I don't know. They played it as if it was a little supposed to be romantic, but Anakin just came off way too aggressive
To be
for
completely
that to
fair,
be the
that's what
case.
half of Star Wars, the prequel trilogy, is.
Okay, yes, that is. I do think that Anakin was being kind of manipulative here. The way
Oh, definitely, yeah.
he was just like, "Yo, let's go take a vacation." She says, "Oh no, I can't. I have work." He says, "Oh, so you think, oh, so you don't love me as much as you love your job?" She says,
It's
"No." He says,
actually
"I love you more than anything." Like
it actually
it was
seems
so
like
weird.
quite a Palpatine thing to do, which
Yeah, I
um
mean, clearly Palpatine's been rubbing off on Anakin
of
because,
course he has. No,
yeah,
absolutely. And I think I only mean that as a good thing story wise because I think it's showing how much Anakin is falling under Palpatine's influence.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the lightsaber part that is a little weird to me because,
By the way, let's
I
talk
mean,
about completely missing the point of Obi-Wan's lessons.
yeah, he
Um,
completely misses the point of Obi-Wan
like
Wilson.
that.
That being said, I do think it is
When
great
Obi-Wan
symbolically.
gave me this lightsaber, he told me, "Anakin, this weapon is your life. This weapon is my life." That's not what he meant. That's not what he
Yeah,
meant.
yeah.
He
I mean,
meant that this lightsaber literally might be the only thing between you and death.
yeah,
Not that
yeah.
it should be your
Not that
life's
you should like,
calling.
yeah, not that you should give it away to your wife. Like that's
That's
not what
not what
this is
he.
for. To be fair, though, to be fair, I do think that you could make the case that it's symbolic, and that really it's showing it's a symbol of how Anakin is kind of giving up, or kind of maybe not quite sure what the word is, not quite sure how to describe this, but he might be maybe not committing to his Jedi duties as much as he could be, or he could be kind of abandoning some of his commitment to the Jedi code because he loves Padme, and that's symbolized by him giving his lightsaber to Padme.
I had a slightly different interpretation of it, which is I thought it was a symbol of him putting all of his emotional eggs in one basket.
Yeah,
Of
that's true.
him,
Also, he really
he
clings
is
onto Padme hard.
so
Like,
devoted because again, part of Anakin's fall of the dark side is like just not being able to recognize moderation.
yeah,
It's
and
just like he is
I mean,
so
honestly, can you?
incredibly devoted to
Yeah,
Padme,
and I mean, honestly, can you
and
blame
not in a
him?
healthy way, but like
Yeah,
a really, really unhealthy way.
but I think the attachments that he forms, obviously, I think, can you blame him? I think yes, you could, but also I think it's a little unfair to completely fault him. Like obviously there were some circumstances in terms of the age at which he joined the Jedi, and him losing his mother that kind of contribute to that.
it's wrong to, in my opinion, to say that Anakin was completely a product of circumstance, but it's also wrong to me to say that Anakin's completely a product of choice.
Yeah, I think he's a product of this is gonna sound like a Jabba's palace. It's gonna sound like a Jabba is at Jabba's palace moment. But yes, Anakin is both a product of circumstance and his own decisions. That
Yeah,
is that is how yeah.
he's a complicated mess of a human being.
Yeah. It's very, very complicated. And I mean humans are by default, I think, pretty darn complicated.
I
And
know, but
Anakin
he
really
is complicated for a human.
yeah, Anakin is so complicated. Gosh, people are gonna think we're aliens and now we're talking about humans. Oh my
I've
gosh.
heard weirder. I've heard weirder.
Yeah. So I mean, getting
Yeah.
on, what's funny to me also is that as Anakin, presumably as Anakin and Padme are having this discussion, there's also this skirmish happening on the landing platform, and Cad Bane and his bounty hunting henchmen and henchwomen are basically breaking into the
I
Senate.
would be too hasty.
Yeah, I mean that part was
Yeah.
cool. That was, and they brought
And
commando droids, so they had that separatist mullah uh
oh, I don't think that's what
buying their
that
way to
was.
Coruscant.
Okay.
You know? Oh,
Like
you think they were
no.
captured?
I think they were just like I
Hmm.
think they just found them somewhere. I don't think this has anything to do with the separatists, honestly.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's a possibility also.
Yeah, I really don't think this has anything to do with the separatists, but that's just me.
Hmm.
Um
I think you're
yeah.
probably right.
By the
They
way,
did not have the same coloration.
let's talk about something that's truly ironic.
Ooh, yes, please do.
What bill are they voting on? Are they
The
discussing in the hallway?
enhanced privacy invasion bill, correct? Which
This seems like an invasion of privacy, doesn't it?
the irony here is that unless I really misinterpreted what was going on, I thought that the enhanced privacy invasion bill was being pitched by Palpatine, which makes me wonder why then if he wanted it to be popular and he wanted it to pass, why would he call it the privacy invasion bill? And that's kind of that's
A
funny to
couple
me.
things. First of all, I think we'll touch back on the privacy invasion bill next episode. Because I think it comes up in the next arc, actually.
Hmm.
I think
Yeah.
it's a bit of, I might be wrong. I might be completely wrong, but I seem to remember um it being brought up um in the next couple of episodes. Um Either way, um yeah, but like tell me it's not ironic that they're voting on a privacy invasion bill and yet their privacy in the Senate is being actively invaded by bounty hunters.
Yeah,
Um
that
it's
is
something
some
because
great dramatic irony.
I've seen this episode 5 or 6 times, probably
Wow.
more. This is one of the episodes I've seen of the Clone Wars the most. I adore this episode. This is the first time I saw that. This is the first time I realized that one. Um, yeah. One of my favorite things of this episode is what's the first thing that Cad Bane says when he enters the atrium?
I'm not sure.
Morning, senators.
Senators.
That's all. That's all he needs. That's all a Cad Bane needs. He also
Saucy
just straight up
villain.
executes a senator,
Yeah,
Senator Philo.
that is brutal.
And notice
Man,
the way this seems very Western inspired to me. Notice the way he kills him. Notice the blaster shot. It's a behind the back sort of thing. It seemed very much like a Western gunslinger sort of thing. And like just the hat alone, Bane provokes that very Western gunslinger vibe. It's a shame to me that do we ever see Cad Bane on Tatooine?
yeah, doesn't he go to Tatooine at the end of last episode? He shows up. He's at Jabba's palace, isn't he?
Duh. That's not exactly what I meant, but duh.
You mean you want to
Um,
really see him spend some time on Tatooine?
like not Jabba's palace, like actually on the sands of Tatooine,
Yeah,
like in Mos Eisley or
yeah,
something
I would
like
love
that.
that. Hey,
Yeah.
here's a question: Do we know how Cad Bane dies? Does he die? Has he had a canon death yet?
Technically, no, but kind of yes. So there is an arc. There is an arc that was not ever reviewed for that. It was one of the uncompleted arcs.
Oh, so it's
Um,
unclear whether or not it's canon.
it's very unclear, and it's also very unclear whether or not Bane dies, but I think he does. So there's an arc where Cad Bane hooks up with Boba Fett and his crew in season 7,
Yeah.
and his one goal is that he and Jango Fett had a very famous rivalry,
Yes.
but but they never. This seems like a very Star Wars fan arc. Actually, they never got to see who was the better bounty hunter.
Yeah. Yeah. Very
So
Star Warsian.
so what does Cad Bane do? Of course, he knows that Django has a clone who's also a bounty hunter, a clone son who's also a bounty hunter. So he decides to train Bubba up, and so they can finally find out.
Yeah.
At the end of that arc, they have a shootout. It's unclear what exactly happens.
Hmm.
I think, based on evidence of what I've seen, it looks like Bane dies in that gunfight. What we also see, what the final shot of the concept shot of that arc is Fett's helmet falling to the ground, and you know that like dent on his helmet.
Yes.
That's how the dent got there.
Oh.
It's from a shootout with Cad Bane. I don't know if he died, but from everything I've seen, it looks like he died.
Because if you were saying Cad Bane is perfect for a Western, I would have wanted to see a season 1 Mandalorian cameo or him coming back for an episode. Yes, he would be pretty old, but you know, he's an alien.
I've seen.
He
I
could
think it
probably
was
still be
actually
alive.
Brian from Pink Milk mentioning that he'd love to see Cad in the Mandalorian. So it's not a completely like wild idea. There are
Yeah.
some people who really. I don't want to see it just because I really don't like Cad Bane, but like,
Yeah. I think the
but
Mandalorian relies on cameos a bit too much anyway. But I
and
mean, since it seems to be
Cad's different.
yeah, he is different.
I want to see. I actually Cad
He is
Bane,
the coolest.
a Bane type cameo is a cameo I'd love to see in the Mandalorian, because it's like what I think got a lot of people irritated about the Mandalorian season 2 cameos, which I was not irritated by them as much as I know some people were, but I acknowledge that some people were kind of pissed off with that. What I think, because all of those characters were super weighty, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, even Bo-Katan was and Cobb were big deals.
Mhm.
Have cameos that aren't big deals. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Have Bosk show up for an episode because he can. Nobody cares about Bosk. You know what I mean? I mean, like I love Bosk.
I'm sure
like,
there are many people on Twitter who would get
so,
who would
yeah, that's they would not what I
disagree,
mean.
but
That's
yeah,
not what I mean.
I understand what
What
you
I
mean.
mean
I
is
understand
like
what you mean.
Bosk doesn't have the weight on the universe that Bo-Katan or a bigger cameo like Luke or Ahsoka would yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Neither does Cad Bane, and I'd love to see something like that. I think that would be really interesting because it would be a cameo, but it wouldn't be as weighty. Anyway, back to the hostage crisis. Yeah. One of my favorite things is Palpatine tries the good old "we're not going to negotiate with terrorists" thing. You should know that the Republic does not take kindly to such threats, except for when we do everything you tell us to.
Yeah, and I mean, but Cad Bane clearly that doesn't work on Cad Bane. Cad Bane knows what he's gotten into. It seems like, I mean, Cad Bane he will do anything. As he says, he will literally take on any job if the price is right. Sith Lords working for the Hutts. There's nothing he won't do. So I mean, that's kind of why I love him, because he is just so ambitious, and it shows.
Yeah. You know,
but clearly that he is unfazed.
He is so ambitious. He'll take on any job, maybe even the kidnapping of a 50-year-old baby midget.
Oh my gosh, I see where you're going with this. That would have been a great idea. Someone call up yeah, man, someone call up Dave Filoni or Jon Favreau, because
I mean, it does seem like they went there with Cobb Vanth, and they went there like Bo-Katan. It does seem like the kind of thing they do.
Yeah.
You know what also seems like the kind of thing they do?
What? Not do that?
Make what? No, I was gonna go with make. I have an idea. Maybe you have a certain emperor who's waiting out there on the outskirts of the galaxy. Send a certain Sith hunter after, um, the kid. Just a thought. Just a
I
thought.
see. Ochi of Bestoon. Oh
We need
wow.
our OG in the Mandalorian. This is what I'm talking about. I
I
waited two
disagree,
freaking
but
months. At the time of this recording, actually, I think the day we're releasing this is the day the final issue of the Ochi arc of the Vader comic comes out. Um, I'm gonna be like next episode. I'm gonna be so excited. I'm gonna be buzzing
and
about that comic.
you have just been completely spoiled by this Vader comic.
I have.
It's just
You're
been
lucky
Ochi
that it's coming
madness.
to an end.
Yes, I am lucky. Hopefully we can move on with our lives.
So actually, guess what?
What
There's
there's
a
more.
new arc in the Vader comic as well as crossing over into other comics called War of the Bounty Hunters, which is about Vader. No, which is not about Vader. It's about Boba Fett transporting Han Solo to Jabba's palace and how that road is not such an easy one. Guess who's
Yeah.
been seen on one of the covers of one of the War of the Bounty Hunters comics? Ochi of Bestoon. The madness continues, is what I'm saying. Here's something I love about this episode.
Yep.
I find it really interesting that these bounty hunters don't really seem like a huge threats. You know what I mean? They
They're
don't
not.
seem very competent. But Anakin without a lightsaber is like it's they are scary to
Yeah,
Anakin
I
without a
mean,
lightsaber.
absolutely. I think this
I
kind of shows how maybe Anakin relies a little too much on his lightsaber.
though then
And I
again, I
guess
think it probably shows how all Jedi rely a little too of this era.
yeah, they're
The,
just they're lightsaber junkies. They can't get enough.
it makes sense with you like to point out the hubris of the Jedi.
Yeah.
We're not in touch. They're such warriors that what are they completely useless without their shiny laser sword? The laser sword isn't the important part. The fighting also is not the important part.
Yeah.
But hubris of the Jedi. Really, just for me, it's like this episode. It's interesting because it doesn't actually have that much dialogue.
Yeah.
And again, I think that's a strength of the episode. I think it relies. It's a very visual episode, and I think it tells the story really well.
Yeah, I mean, there's big swaths of the episode.
Yeah, Anakin
Where
takes
it's
that
basically
out that
Anakin.
entire IG assassin droid with no dialogue. It's what I call Gendy Tartakovskying it.
Yes, definitely Gandhi Tartakovskying it. I think
That is our new.
yeah,
That is a new one.
it
Gendy
was interesting that
Tartakovskying it.
yeah,
Right alongside Prejudice.
yeah, and I think yeah, I was really interested in how Anakin kind of moved.
Tartakovsking.
Yeah,
Tartakovsking.
I want to go back actually for a minute to where Anakin kind of moved, how Anakin moved without his lightsaber, and how the I think the bounty hunters even knew that he. I mean, obviously he's more vulnerable without his lightsaber, but you'd think a Jedi he could use the Force, but I mean, they make pretty short work of Anakin without his lightsaber. Like, yes, he does. Yes, they do kind of corner him, but I think that just shows how the superior kind of tactics and outnumbering effect can still work even on
Absolutely.
Jedi, especially of this era.
I think it's a combination of the tactics thing, and I also just think it's a combination of the Jedi relying a little too much on their lightsabers.
Yeah, and I think it's almost kind of a metaphor for the entire plot of the prequels. The Jedi they're struggling a little bit, but they think they've got everything under control. They think they're fine, and then all of a sudden, boom, they're surrounded, and pop, they're getting lightning all over their body, and they are down for the count.
Yeah. Or some might call it unlimited power.
And then we get Cad Bane, yet another hollow call, really running up the bill this episode. Asking for
frankly, does he care?
No, obviously no. No, he doesn't care. He's like my employers are like the richest people in the galaxy. They're the Hutts. They're not gonna care. They're gonna foot the bill, no problem. They want this guy they want this guy and they want him bad. And
yeah.
I mean, ultimately they want him in the dirt, but they still want him. so I'm gonna get them, and they're gonna pay me. They're gonna pay me out the wazoo.
He talks in Evil Plans a little exaggerative, I'm sure, but about rearranging his busy schedule.
Yes, that part really made me chuckle. Yeah, he really plays the hostage situation perfectly, even though he's pretty much outnumbered, surrounded by the end. The clones are
I
closing
want to
in.
watch this episode with Holocron Heist because
Yeah, I think that would give some
the
more context.
and it's interesting because if you watch this if you watch this release order, the episode after after Hostage Crisis is Holocron Heist, but they're two straight episodes of Cad Bane just absolutely slapping the Jedi. Let's go to Ziro, shouldn't we?
Yeah, let's do it.
One of my least favorite characters is somehow back.
and
My favorite part is, did you notice when they're releasing him the prison?
the clone trooper, yes.
The clone on the right.
He
Oh
just
my
goes,
god!
oh my, yeah. This is where Zero's
I'm
like,
that clone
my
trooper
eyes.
is that clone
Yeah.
trooper is me so much.
Yes, that clone trooper is also me because somehow Zero is just the most annoying
To use a common meme I
character.
know a lot of people use. Somehow Zero returned.
Yes, but I mean, Zero is one of those characters. I think
Jeez.
Zero is one of those people, one of those personalities where he knows that he's being annoying. He knows that he's being annoying. He knows that people don't like him, but he does not care. He's just like,
He better not, because
I'm doing what I gotta do. You're getting mad and I'm getting rich. That's his
yeah.
that's his MO.
You'll regret this. No, I think I'll become rich from this.
Yeah.
It's a line from the Clone Wars movie.
Yeah.
Let's talk
absolutely.
about another line. Oh, but no. But I don't want to go to the Senate.
Yeah, that's exactly just the oh my gosh. And and the
Thank
fact
God
that
they make him a MacGuffin.
Yeah. The fact that One Free Taw is in this too. Just I think.
And he's not the most annoying character in this episode. Yeah, that. Really
yeah, I mean it's kind of the ultimate showdown for who is taking the title of the most annoying and the whiniest. And I think no one can top Zero when it comes to those categories. That is just.
I'm trying to think of a character I find more annoying than. Oh well, Darth Maul, but
Maul, yeah.
but other than that, and I'm trying to think of a character you find more annoying than Zero, and I'm like, oh yeah, Bo-Katan. I adore this episode. This episode is great.
Yeah, there's a lot there's a lot more to like in this episode, and in Hunt for Zero, I think it's a very it's quite an interesting
trilogy,
one.
but it's a good trilogy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have trivia, or should we proceed on?
Trivia. Oh, yes, I do. So one of these criminals, the bounty hunter, actually, I think, zaps Anakin in the back. Robinino. He's referred to in the script as Fish Guy, and is based on an unused Ian McCaig concept for an aquatic Jedi, which is interesting because the only time we ever see this character model used in the Clone Wars, it's always a criminal.
Oh yeah,
this same species. Yeah, him and Banamu. That's it.
But we see Rowanino a couple more times in.
Yeah.
We see him in the season 4 the Bounty Hunter arc.
Yeah. Man.
Yeah.
These fish dudes must be really tired of getting typecast as criminals. That would frustrate me.
Yeah. Imagine if 10 years from now the frog people just get typecast as lovers constantly.
Yeah, that would be the equivalent of this is basically, to me, with such a rare species in Star Wars, the equivalent of having two separate lizard frog people lover couples in one TV show.
Yeah.
So and then
3 of the Mandalorian, let's make this happen.
And Robinino's backpack says Pats fan in Orabesh, so of course he must be a Patriots fan. So I'm not sure if this, the fact that he is also wanted by the law, I'm not sure if this somehow Dave Filoni magically predicted the football deflating scandal from a few years back.
Oh, I thought just one of the animators was probably a Patriots fan.
Yeah. I mean,
sorry,
that is a possibility as well. No. Yeah, which is more likely? Dave Filoni can see the future, or someone on the animators likes the Patriots? You tell
Actually,
me.
Dave Filoni has been scientifically proven to have seen the future many times, so.
Yeah. Okay.
Hunt for Zero. Quite possibly one of the weirdest episodes in Star Wars The Clone Wars. Cad Bane drops off Ziro the Hutt on the Hutt home world of Nal Hutta. He is imprisoned by the rest of the Hutts because he is refusing to reveal the MacGuffin for the episode, which is a diary containing, quote, the nefarious deeds of the Hutt Council. But all is not lost for Ziro, because he is freed by his former lover, the Palawick singer who eventually sings Lofty Neck in Jabba's Palace in Return of the Jedi, Cy Snoodles. Um, meanwhile,
Hilarious.
meanwhile, the Jedi also kind of want Ziro back because, he was supposed to be, because they want the diary too. Um, and so they send Obi-Wan Kenobi and Surfer Jedi Quinlan Vos. Um, and so the entire episode is a pretty big chase between not only it's a pretty big chase. Not only are Obi-Wan and Quinlan going after Ziro and Sai, but indeed also Cad Bane is rehired to go after Sai and Ziro. Ziro makes a stop at his mother's house, Mama the Hutt, who lends him her ship. They go to the planet of Teth, where Ziro hid the diary at his father's grave, and then it is revealed that Sai is working for Jabba the Hutt as a bounty hunter, as she then kills her former lover and takes the diary back to Jabba on Tatooine. Meanwhile, Cad Bane and Obi-Wan and Quinlan all get to Ziro's body and where the diary is supposed to be way too late, and then they fight for basically no reason, and that's how the episode ends, with Bane getting away and Obi-Wan and Quinlan also getting away, but coming up empty-handed both times. Fortune cookie. Love comes in all shapes and sizes.
And that's an interesting episode to deploy this fortune cookie. I do like the message,
You
but
could have done so many other things.
I mean, in this particular instance, one of those shapes and sizes ends up kind of murdering the other one. No, full on
Yeah.
murdering the other one. So I'm not sure
No,
if that
not
was the
kind
best
of.
possible.
Literally shoots him.
Yeah, maybe that's not the absolute best
Yeah.
best
I came up with the
possible, but
better fortune cookie. I came up with a better fortune cookie. This is legitimately a note I wrote down. Keep in mind I was pretty tired when I did these. So I was probably going a little bit off charts here, but literally I wrote down, is this even Star Wars anymore?
uh I mean, yeah. I mean, clearly it is. Star Wars goes to a lot of crazy places
I
in some
know.
of these episodes.
It's so weird.
Yeah, it does get pretty weird, not gonna lie.
Yeah. I want to talk about Surfer Jedi Quinlan Vos, though. Because Quinlan Vos in Star Wars Legends, in the comics, was a main character of the Star Wars Republic comics, and he was not a surfer dude. He was a valiant Skywalker-esque Jedi who had a very troubled past with his relatives on Kifar, who eventually, both in canon and legends, infiltrated Dooku's inner circle to try and figure out who the heck this second Sith was. Dabbled in the dark side many a time, but ultimately came out on the light in both ends. But in this, he is a surfer dude.
Yeah, he is a total surfer dude. I love Quinlan in this. He's just the
I think I
opposite.
kind of recalled you hated him
What?
as a surfer dude.
Not anymore. Not anymore. I
Okay.
watched this and I was like, oh, this is like I don't know. You gotta love this guy. He's just
I kind
he's
of
such
like him. I kind of
he's the opposite of the kind of perfect Jedi stereotype that is Kenobi.
yeah.
So that's definitely something that I.
By the way, did you notice the meme that the accidental meme in this episode?
Not sure I did.
Oh my god, this is the best thing ever. I don't know if you've seen this meme. I hate this meme, but I love that Quinlan does this. Well, if you could tell time better, we wouldn't be running behind. Yeah,
Uh,
well, that's just like your opinion, man.
oh yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah.
I fully
That's yeah.
died when Quinlan said
That
that.
yeah, that was that's
That was
yeah,
before that meme became popular too. That see,
yeah.
Dave Filoni can predict the future. Here's another one of my famous logistical questions: who the heck is the bone brain who gave Ziro the Hollow Diary?
I mean, didn't we end up discovering at the end of the episode that the Hollow Diary is actually in the tomb of one of these
That's
other
just where Ziro hit
huts?
it.
Oh, that's where Zero hit it. Oh, I mean, presumably he kind of got his hands on the Hollow Diary in what I can only assume would be a less than legal, or at least something that was maybe
But they're
less
the
than
Hutts.
approved
They're
by the
all
Hut
shady.
Council. Yeah, they all are all shady, but they have their
That's the
internal rules.
definition.
That you don't think they have bylaws. You don't think they have the Hut
I
count.
think they do have bylaws. I question how many of them follow them.
Yeah, that is a good point. But I mean, clearly the Huts seem to take the council. At least the ones who are on it seem to take the council
Semi
pretty seriously.
seriously.
Like yeah, they're
Is
not a
it
fan
only
of that.
coincidental that all of them are dead by the end of season 5?
I mean, wait, all of them? I mean, you
All
gotta
of them.
wonder. Like, you gotta wonder, right? Maybe it's
All
not at
of
that
them.
point. Wow.
I mean, Jabba's not part of the Hut Council.
Yeah, is Jabba. It seems like Jabba is kind of a renegade in the Clone Wars.
He seems like
I,
he. It seems like he's only part of the Hut Council when it's convenient to him,
yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
which is a Jabba thing to do anyway. So
Yeah, I almost interpreted it as if he might have been almost too powerful to be on the Hut Council,
yeah,
or maybe not at this point. But I mean, clearly Jabba is still a big shot, as we see
yeah.
in other episodes of the Clone
The only
Wars.
reason he wouldn't be part of the Hut Council is because he's too good to be part of the Hut Council.
I think that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Jabba, he like him or hate him, he's a clever guy. He's a smart cookie.
Yeah. I want to talk about a piece of trivia that I'm sure you have for this episode, but I happen to know this piece of trivia and I freaking love this piece of trivia.
All right.
The opening sequence of this episode at the Hut compound on Nal Hutta is directly ripped from another Lucasfilm property, and that is my favorite of this franchise, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Ah.
The Anything Goes sequence from the beginning of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom at the Shanghai nightclub is directly ripped and just plopped in here into what's called Da Hut Muna, which I still kind of have in my head a little bit because it's so god darn catchy. And then we get this really odd relationship between Cy Snoodles and Ziro the Hutt. Do you
Yeah, I
want to
mean,
get into this? Because
yeah, I don't know if Size Noodles, she's doing her dance number, and I have to say, the whole dance song really reminded me of the La La Land soundtrack. Parts of it really sounded like Another Day of Sun or something. I don't know if that was just me, but
well,
that made
if
me
we got
laugh.
the Temple of Doom thing, that's a jazz nightclub,
Yeah,
and
so I
La
mean,
La Land is predominantly jazz music,
yeah,
so
I guess it makes sense.
the inspiration is not like
I think the Sice Noodles and Zero, their relationship being played for laughs, obviously it is a bit comical. You have like probably a hut that weighs 2,000 pounds and is like a 20-foot long giant slug in love with like a tiny reptile bird that looks like she
a
weighs
reptile bird.
tiny reptile bird, yeah, crossed with
That
an anteater maybe. And she
yeah.
looks like she weighs 30 pounds max. So obviously it is a bit comical in and of itself, but I think that the
Ah,
um the fortune cookie kind of gets let down a little bit by the way it's
I
played
only
for
care
laughs.
about us being together forever.
Yeah.
You really mean that from the bottom of my fluid sack?
And I mean I
Oh
think
Jesus.
there is definitely something you can tell that their love feels a little bit, I don't know, maybe forced, maybe a tad superficial in that sequence.
It's
I'm not
just
sure.
written like so cheesily. That's what it is. It's written so cheesily.
Yeah.
Which I
I
don't
can't
really
yeah.
like. I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I just it's part of what this makes this episode really, really weird and interesting.
Yeah, Sice Noodles. She busts Ziro out, obviously. And Ziro goes to his mother's house. His mom
Yeah.
isn't very happy to
Mo-
see him.
As I wrote in my notes, here's Mama the Hutt. Somehow only the third weirdest part of this episode.
Yeah, that's like she is
Actually,
super.
before we get to her, sorry, I want to bring up one thing. Quinlan Vos and psychometry. Psychometry is one of
Ooh,
my
yeah.
favorite force powers in Star Wars. We see it being very famously used by Cal Kestis all over the place in Jedi Fallen Order, and by Rey in The Rise of Skywalker. When she picks up the dagger and she says, "This dagger has done terrible things," and nobody do the whole "she picked up the lightsaber and didn't remember slaughtering younglings." Don't no one do that, because
Yeah.
that wasn't the point of that scene.
I mean, it's just a
Point of
meme. It's just a meme.
Yeah, I know. I just quickly, if I may, the point of that scene is that Rey can detect the dagger, because I think, in my mind at least, she has selective psychometry, because that dagger plays a significant role in her past.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
Anakin killing younglings has nothing to do with her. So, yeah. Anyway,
That's a
but
good
Star
point.
Wars fans love to plop Anakin killing younglings into literally anything they can. So I don't blame them.
Mom of the Hut, somehow, as you said, somehow only the third weirdest part. Someone who is, even for Hut standards, extraordinarily large and extraordinarily grouchy, and also covered in some kind of bat. I think it's unclear, but it is.
Don't ask. This episode is really strange.
Yeah. I mean, Ziro just seems to kind of get on everybody's bad side, even as he gets what he wants.
Well, then again,
He
he's
makes no
Zero,
friends
so
doing it.
I think he just naturally gets on everybody's bad side.
Yeah, and I think that's what his downfall is that he doesn't realize that
So first you said
people won't
that
forgive him.
he know he's an. So first you said that you think he knows he's annoying. Now you're saying that his downfall is that he doesn't know he's annoying.
No. Hear me out. There's
No,
a
I'm
difference.
joking.
I think that he knows he's annoying, but he doesn't realize that
that has an effect on
he
people.
doesn't realize that that has an effect on people. Like I'll just say he knows he's annoying. Maybe he doesn't really know the full extent of how much that ticks people off, and that becomes his downfall when he ran away on his girlfriend Sice Noodles, and then Sice Noodles murders him.
Yeah.
Which I should add is probably not the most measured response for a lover's quarrel, but
it happens.
I mean, it's like, in the context of this episode, it's not even something that I questioned while watching it.
I didn't question that. Let me talk about something, another cool piece of symbolism here.
He was also totally
notice that where does Ziro die?
Right in kind of the same spot where the other hut is.
His father is buried.
What's his father? That's not just any hut. I forgot.
Yeah. So he died exactly where his father's buried. You can't tell me that's not intentional.
Yeah, I mean,
that is completely intentional. And though actually, I did realize that what does Ziro tell Sai about his dad? That he never had the heart to tell Mama that he ran away, that he died. So a Hutt who wasn't good about talking to his family and talking to his loved ones, would be putting it like exaggerating, but which is ironically the same thing that causes Ziro's downfall. So yeah, like father, like son.
Yeah, like father, like son, and thus the tale of Ziro ends in.
Yeah, thank God.
What I want to say tragedy, but also I kind of not going to say I saw this coming, because it was an interesting development. But I mean, it's Ziro. He did a lot of weird things. He must have known something was coming.
As in how it should have ended for Phantom Menace. I sense a million voices cried out in relief.
Yeah. So you're just kind of relieved that
Thank God he's gone. I
Zero
mean,
is out of the Clone
they
Wars.
took him out in the weirdest way possible, but thank God he's gone.
Yeah,
I also would like to ask you something. Between this and also Zero taking Rada to Teth, is Teth just like Zero's Mustafar for Palpatine? Anytime Zero needs something done, it's just Teth.
yeah, I mean it's kind of a hideout for the Hutt clans, so I suppose it
Yeah.
is.
Um absolutely. Anyway, yeah. So finally, I got one more thing to cover about this episode for me. What do you think about this fight at the end? I mean, I like the fight. It just seems like the reason they're fighting is kind of manufactured.
Yeah, it's just kind of like it feels almost as though they
Well,
don't. It feels almost as though they don't want to fight each other. You know, it's kind of like, oh,
yeah.
Cad Bane, you're here, and you're a bounty hunter, and I'm a Jedi. Well, guess we got to fight now. Oh no.
Yeah, it's a great fight. I
Yeah,
love the fight. I love that Cad Bane really does seem like a match for Obi-Wan and Quinlan.
yeah.
I just the circumstances seem way too forced for me.
I don't know. I think it's hilarious how Cad Bane ends up he leaves them hanging off the side of a cliff, and then Quinlan Vos is just looks over and grins at Obi-Wan, and he's just like, "Well, I think this is funny. Are you amused, or are you going to be a grouch about it?" You know, I guess
Yeah,
that's his whole thing. That is his whole thing. These were some weird episodes. I'm
these were
not sure.
some
I'm
really
honestly
strange
not sure
episodes.
what to make of them. They felt only Mart. I mean, obviously they were related to each other, but even the two episodes that are literally back to back, The Hunt for Zero and Evil Plans, feel only marginally cohesive and consistent with one another. So it doesn't
Well,
even feel like an arc in my
here's
mind.
how I would think about it, because Hostage Crisis is the event,
Yeah,
and they decide to take 2 episodes in season 3 to fill in what happened before the event and what happened after the event.
I think that makes when I think about like that, that resolves some of my
Yeah,
misgivings.
it's a really interesting arc. I'm gonna give it that.
Yeah,
I like all of these episodes. Some of them I love, some of them I just like. This is another thing. And I think a lot of these sentiments I'm having, I've gotten. I think Alex Damon from Star Wars Explained has phrased it like that, and I really like this idea. I Star Wars sometimes tries big things or like weird things and succeeds.
yeah,
Sometimes Star Wars tries big things or weird things and they fail. Regardless of whether they succeed or fail, I always love when Star Wars tries. I always love when Star Wars does something strange. I
yeah,
I always love when Star Wars does something off the beaten path. It's like why Fallen Order, for example, it's growing on me. That game was like nothing what I expected it to be. That's why I loved Rise of Skywalker, frankly, is because the first quarter of that movie is just space archaeology. Even if I have some definite problems with a bunch of these episodes, which I do, I love that Star Wars tries.
yeah.
What do you think about ranking these three?
Oof, this is they feel hard to rank. Just kind of wrapping my head around these episodes
You
is a
want me to go
little
first for
challenging.
this?
Yeah, you can go first.
Evil Plans is number 3. Um, Hunt for Zero is number 2, and as I probably alluded to you a bunch more times, Hostage Crisis is number 1. Hostage Crisis, in my
Yeah.
opinion, is one of the top 20 episodes of this show.
Honestly,
Um,
I would rank them the same. I I think they all have their ups and their downs, but at the end of the day, I think Hostage Crisis. I wouldn't necessarily call it a great episode or really an episode to write home about, but it felt like it had the most potential and it had the most food for thought.
Everyone's favorite part of Star Wars in the galaxy.
What you've brought me today is worth 1/4 portion.
That's right. It is time. And today we have It's a Long Story, the mini game where we explain a Star Wars plot badly and the other person has to guess. All right. Do you want to go first or
You go
should I?
first. You go first.
All
You
right.
go first.
Here we go. This It's kind of it's a little bit more of a deep cut, but so yeah, let
Go
me
right
know if you
ahead.
need some
I'm
hints.
game for a deep cut.
All right, all right. A well-loved religious leader is forced out of his organization by politicians, so he decides to travel the world and spend time bonding with his son.
Wait, that sounds like The Mandalorian.
You're right. I just realized that it's not the Mandalorian though. It's not the Mandalorian.
Is this like a weird Anakin thing?
No, it's not an. It is not an Anakin thing. It it is Legends, and it is a book.
Oh wait, it's Legends.
Legends.
Oh boy,
Yes.
this could be anything.
It's a Legends book, but it's something I've read. So I mean,
Something you've. Oh wait, this is Outcast.
yes, it's Outcast. Ah.
There we go. I was like,
I was debating
wait,
making
yeah.
a reference to the Land of the Dead, but I thought that would be too confusing because of the Keldor.
Through cloning and dark sciences, an old leader returns to prominence.
What, the Rise of Skywalker?
There we go. Okay. I
I
thought
was
naively because you've only seen that movie once, you wouldn't remember
no.
the direct dialogue from it.
I thought it was a trick question almost because I was like, wait, that sounds like the Rise of
Dark sciences,
Secrets, cloning.
secrets only the Sith knew. That's gonna be it for this episode of Star Wars in a Galaxy. Thank you for listening as always. A little bit of a looking ahead a little bit. In 2 episodes, Star Wars in a Galaxy is celebrating episode number 50. So, as much as we always do this, we are going to really push this. We're going to be extending our invitations. Send us stuff, voice messages, trivia, questions in general. Send us stuff. We'll be putting out more announcements on Twitter and all of that. We would love to hear from listeners for our 50th episode. But in the meantime, you can listen to us on Apple Podcast, on Spotify, on Anchor. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, we'll probably be there. If we're not, just let us know. We can try and get on there. You can follow us on Twitter at In a Galaxy Pod. You can follow us on Instagram at Star Wars in a Galaxy. Our YouTube channel is Star Wars in a Galaxy, where we occasionally do the occasional live stream. Leave a 5-star rating and review. It really does help. You can email us with all of those lovely questions or trivia or all that stuff at slbinagalaxy@gmail.com. And finally, next episode, we're going to be doing another jumbled mess. From season 3, we are going to be doing the episodes Heroes on Both Sides and Pursuit of Peace. And to round out the arc, we're going to be doing an episode back in season 2 called Senate Murders. These are going to be 3 very political episodes. And I'm quite excited for that. In the meantime, though, may the Force be with you. Always.